No, no, no. You don't understand. You can't make a deal with him. Even if you gave him the money, he'd still kill you. He's a peculiar man. You could even say that he has principles. Principles that transcend money, or drugs, or anything like that. He's not like you. He's not even like me.
That's a tough one. Something about money being exchanged, a badass involved. Training Day.
Not train. I actually expected you to get this pretty easily. Woody Harrelson said this.
Woody Harrelson said this. It's not Three Billboards, is it?
No, he said it to. Oh Lord, he said it to Josh Brolin.
Woody Harrelson, Josh Brolin movie. Oh, is this Old Boy, the remake?
No.
Okay.
No Country.
Oh, it's No Country for Old Men. Okay, some foreshadowing here.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
The moment I catch a feeling, spirit to something.
I think this just might be my masterpiece.
Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of the Average Joe's Movie Club Cast. This is Justin.
And I'm Joey.
And on this episode, we're cranking up the action with some Arrow titles we have never seen before with Sam Peckinpah's Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia from 1974 and Ronin from 1998, directed by John Frankenheimer.
And just a heads up, we will, of course, discuss these in full. So if you have not seen a part of a movie or any of those movies, just skip ahead so you don't get spoiled and all that good stuff.
If you want to be a part of the club, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you. We've been hearing from some folks on Letterboxd a little bit. How about yourself?
I haven't heard anything, but I mean, you have twice as many followers as me, or give or take. So
yeah, I guess the radius of possibilities heightens with that. So what have you been up to?
Working, playing some Dark Souls, watching a few movies. I did the Casablanca unboxing.
Yeah. And
then I have another unboxing that I uploaded today, but I didn't schedule it to come out until Friday because I knew we were recording and I didn't want it to overshadow this. So
yeah, it's a big one.
It's another pretty big collector's edition. Yeah, it's Kill Bill Black Mamba edition.
Oh, what's different about that?
It's a Region B. It's from Germany, and it has this nice big black box that it's in, and it's got it's like a license plate for your car that says P-Star SY Wagon. It has a straight Pussy Wagon keychain. It's got some movie posters and some pins, and then I got a movie called Clan of the White Lotus Clan, White Lotus Clan or something like that. I don't remember the exact name, but it has Gordon Liu, who played Pai Mei in it, which in this movie he's not Pai Mei, he's fighting Pai Mei, but it's one of the direct influences on the Kill Bill, so I had to pick that up as well. I got those from Diabolic DVD. So this is another place that sells some boutique stuff. So and they're here in America, but they sell all sorts of stuff. So even though I ordered that after all those Arrow titles that I talked about last time, I got them first. So
Okay. And you're back to normal at work now? How's the quarantine? This is what, week 7 of it?
well, the governor lifted and said, retail stores could go back open, but we had went to buy online, pick up at door only before he did that, but now we're back open to the public, but it's 5 people in the store at a time. We're still not taking cash or trades, but things like that I guess could change at a drop of a hat kind of deal.
Yeah.
Because cases are still going up, but yet here we are, open to the public. People can come in the store. We don't really have anything in the store, but so yeah, I'm back up to 40 hours a week instead of like 30 or 35, depending on the week, and
That's good.
that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like the writing was on the wall for the schools to be closed down, and they eventually were just recently. They're gone. They will not reopen this year in South Carolina. So more homeschool. So we're still trying to get that nailed out. My kids are just not into like focusing whenever they could be playing their games or whatnot. Which brings it up. Okay, so I'm going to put in I'm going to play my red-blooded male card right now. Okay, so we have this whole generation of young boys playing Fortnite and picking these very attractive women as their characters on Fortnite and seeing their perfect bottoms running across the screen constantly for hours on end. It's going to be an interesting generation of kids that think, or boys whenever they come of age and think that that's what all that's out there. You know what I mean?
I mean, I guess at that point to be like, that's just a character, that's not real. Those are drawn or something. I guess that's kind of the idea.
I guess the equivalent of Lara Croft, but I mean, I just feel like Fortnite is so much bigger than what Lara Croft was. Lara Croft.
Oh yeah, Fortnite is huge. I don't even know what to equate it to when we were children. Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers, but
yeah,
combined
maybe like GoldenEye, but it's like weren't able to like play GoldenEye like online together, like when it first came out. So it's a whole different, and it being like multi-platform. Oh, it drives me crazy. And then they always want to watch these YouTube videos with these guys like hollering at each other, and then they think that's the way they need to talk. I swear it's becoming the YouTube generation. I mean, kids can watch these people all day long uncensored or off the cuff and just take it all in.
Uncensored. Yes, yeah, completely. So yeah, no, because even here at the house, we'll be like, oh, we're gonna watch a movie, we're gonna watch TV, and by TV we don't mean turn on and channel surf cable.
Yeah.
We're not gonna watch CBS or NBC or something like that. It means YouTube. Like,
yeah.
I mean, we have Netflix and Hulu to watch those kind of channels, but unless I'm just watching something that I'm binging, like that's not something you don't just really channel surf anymore.
Yeah, I've tried to do that a few times, and unless it's like the middle of a Saturday and like college football season, I mean, I really don't see any reason to do it. I mean, everything I want to watch is either going to be on a podcast or on YouTube, and I'm just going to be listening to it while I'm doing other stuff. So yeah, much different. I've wanted to cut the cable, but my wife insists that I guess she doesn't want to figure out different ways to find her shows, so she likes the comfort of being able to pull it up on the DVR, which is understandable, just expensive. And recently found out that when you get a little older, getting close to mid-age, it's a lot harder to heal. So I got in a little bit of a bike accident, bicycle. My son cut me off, and I flipped over my handlebars and landed on the concrete and bruised up my shoulder and my chest. And yeah, it still hurts, and that was like a week and a half ago. It's been taking a while. If it's not the front part of me with the bruise hurting, it's the back part of me, just that muscle being sore. So
I mean, you're lucky flipping over that it wasn't worse. Like, you didn't
crack my
get
head or
concussed
something.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, I'm yet to break a bone, knock on wood.
I've only ever fractured my wrist, so thankfully.
I had a couple sprains. Sprained my wrist one summer real bad. That kind of reoccurs sometimes, which is kind of crazy. Watched a big Criterion. Knocked it off my bucket list, my big list finally. Almost 3-hour one. Did you see what I logged?
I can't. Oh, was it the basketball one?
Yep, finally saw Hoop Dreams, which I'd always kind of imagined that was gonna be more of like because it's such a iconic documentary. I thought it was gonna be more cinematic, but it almost looks like a home movie with like its presentation. But it's really epic in scope because it does follow these kids like 5 years, like perfectly documenting their high school basketball careers. So that's definitely one worth checking out. Glad I finally sat down and watched that.
Okay, that seems pretty awesome.
Trying to write a few shorter reviews here and there. If I don't have to, throw everything in the kitchen sink at a review, then maybe I'll pull back a little bit and make it a little shorter. And so that helps me keep up, especially with having 1 or 2 to write a day. It can be kind of exhausting, especially since it takes me probably, I think on average, it takes me at least an hour and a half to write a review. If it's like my standard long ones, because I'm pretty OCD about my proofreading. So I'll read through it like a bunch of times to make sure it's right. Although I'm kind of getting the sense that maybe the Letterboxd community, I mean, if I had a few, typos in there, maybe they wouldn't crucify me.
Probably not. I'm assuming that you actually physically write them and then type them out.
Oh, no. I type them all out. And then
okay.
At one point I was copy and pasting them into Google Word, or what the word equivalent of Google, and seeing what spell check came up with. But I use Grammarly, so that kind of helps me spot stuff, and then I read stuff a couple times through just to make sure it sounds right to me. And like I said, I'm a little OCD, so sometimes when it's completely fine, I'll still read it again and again. But such is such. And just tonight we actually got a nice comment from a brand new follower of mine on the Letterboxd. Their name is Dub Throne. They commented on the Dancer in the Dark review and said they enjoyed Dancer in the Dark, or they enjoyed our show talking about Cherbourg and Dancer in the Dark, and they thought they were both great films. And I responded.
Awesome.
Yep. So thanks so much. We had another, I think, a comment on the YouTube. Basically, they were kind of hyping us up, saying, keep up the good work kind of thing. But I've noticed a lot of people will comment on YouTube and then they'll delete them. Not sure what's up with that, but oh well.
Oh no, that is unfortunate.
All right, let's get right into some movie talk. It's my turn on the Movie Night Pick'em game for you. And so last time when I talked to you about this, we were guessing from, and now that I think about the opening quote of the show, with being a briefcase full of money, I'm like, oh, well, that's pretty obvious with No Country. Anyways, moving on. Yeah, so last time I talked to you, or got you to pick up between movies that you didn't like. This time I wanted to go with 2 ones that you really did like. So I wanted you tonight, after the show, if you had to pick between 2 movies, Die Hard and Die Hard with a Vengeance, which one would it be?
Well, both of those are super fantastic.
Agree.
Seeing as I just saw Die Hard on Christmas Eve, or no, not Christmas Eve, but right before Christmas Eve, and it has been a hot minute since I've seen Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
I would pick Die Hard with a Vengeance. I think overall, if I've just seen both of them in a reasonable amount of time, I'd probably pick Die Hard just because I love it so much. But both of them are just fantastic top tier action movies.
Nice. Yeah, I'd go with Die Hard with a Vengeance as well. It's been longer since I've seen that one. It was actually my first Die Hard movie. They filmed a lot of it in Charleston, South Carolina, where I'm from, so I have that little tie to it. Plus, it's just a great movie overall. Ending, not the greatest, but everything in between, definitely superb. Maybe we'll talk about it on the show one day. We shall see, we shall see. All right, let's get into what we've been watching lately with the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, my categories tonight are So 80s, Didn't See That Coming, and How Did It Come to This, which I guess would be my ugly.
And I just have the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Standard protocol for Joey. All right. You can go. Let's hear about your good movie.
My good movie is one of the most classic Western movies they have out there.
Oh.
I decided to watch this because it has a scene basically stolen from it, a shot, not only a scene, but a shot stolen from it and put into Kill Bill 2, and that's The Searchers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Saw that you watched that. I think I had a pretty similar reaction as you when I saw that last year.
Yeah. It's my first, both my first John Wayne and my John Ford movie.
Okay.
Oddly enough, but yeah, it was a good Western movie, probably better than good, probably great. But I always heard so much about John Wayne's draw, and heard so many people try to do to imitate it, and this, that, and the other. But it was a really good movie. They're tracking down Comanches. It's in Texas, right after the Civil War. So, he's a Confederate. But John Wayne was kind of a dick in this movie.
Oh yeah, he's that's definitely come up in terms of like how we have a more PC culture, and how Native Americans are depicted in these kind of movies. But I mean, that was the reality of America back then. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely, Westerns are filmed much differently now. But for the most part, they called them Comanches. And they didn't.
I'm sure there's probably some slang in there, but.
I mean, I'm sure there was. I don't necessarily remember it. I was thinking the thing I thought was crazy was that he wanted to kill the girl because she was 14, and he was like, she's an adult and she's living with him. I'm like, but she's a child, and as a child she was kidnapped and brainwashed, and
oh yeah.
But we look at that much differently than they would have in where the movie was set, which was the 1800s, and that 14, they're gonna marry off a 14-year-old woman. So, but it was a good movie. It definitely, I'm sure if it was remade today, there'd be some things that would be cleaned up and changed. But it was made in the 50s and set in the 1860s to 1870s. So.
Yeah, I was really blown away by the cinematography in that movie. I mean, it looked stunningly beautiful. Like, it did not look. I mean, that was made in the 60s, right?
I don't think 1956.
Wow. For a 50s movie, it doesn't look like it's I mean, it holds up super well there. They got that, what is it, the final shot where no, actually, isn't it bookended with shots of him standing in a doorway, which is very iconic?
Yeah, and he so many nature shots, and apparently that's what Ford's really known for is his great nature shots. Yeah, and it was one of the things I know we've talked about. I don't know if we've talked about it on the show, but I think me and you have talked about it, and we probably have on here before as well. Is that there's so many movies where they do nature shots, and it feels like sometimes they linger, and it's just
sure.
Did none of these felt like in this movie that they lingered? It was. Here's the nature shot, and something's at least happening, and stuff's going on, and it was just gorgeous. Like the movie itself, all these desert shots, and then there was spots where there was blizzards and whatnot, so there was all these snow shots and different things. So it was a really good Western. I was glad that I watched it.
There's a really good YouTube video out there with Steven Spielberg talking about the first time when he met John Ford, and he asked him for tips on directing, and I think Spielberg said something about just find the horizon or something. And yeah, it's a really solid video. If you want to hear more about directors talking about their craft, I actually saw a classic Western since the last show as well. I saw Red River, which is also, that one's John Wayne and Howard Hawks. So that was a pretty solid one. Didn't end quite the way I expected, but I recommend that one as well. All right, so which one do you want to hear from me?
Let's go with how did it come to this?
Oh my goodness. So I saw, I believe, Eli Roth's debut movie, Cabin Fever. The reason I watched said movie was because I'm in a little club with a guy on Letterboxd, and he's like, oh, let's pick out a sickness movie to go with, the whole COVID-19 quarantine stuff. And so that was the most interesting thing on there. That was not Contagion, which I still haven't seen, and Outbreak, which if I have seen, I don't remember. Yeah, Cabin Fever is basically a combination of the worst horror homages you can stuff into a movie. I was okay with it, going in, and then it kind of does the same stuff that Friday the 13th does, where you really don't give a rip about any of these jerk teenagers and them being jerks to each other. There's some pretty yucky stuff they say about minorities in this movie, and they kind of make it jokey at the end. The kid from Boy Meets World, the older friend from that, is the only somewhat likable character. There's a lot of TNA in there, and instead of it actually feeling sexy, it's more on the pervy side. It just wasn't pleasant to watch. I was ready for it to be over. Cabin in the Woods, not Cabin in the Woods, Cabin Fever. Not a good time for this guy.
It's been a long time since I've seen that movie. I saw that movie when I was much younger, and I remember not thinking it was a great movie, obviously, but enjoying it. But I don't know if it'd be one of those things I would enjoy now. I think I definitely enjoyed it because I believe that gentleman's name is Ryder Strong, who played the older boy. Was it Corey?
Right. Corey, I think, was the main kid. His whatever his friend's name was.
Why am I blanking on that? I feel really bad about that. But anyway, yeah, I think his real name is Ryder Strong, and but yeah, I was.
Remember, the girlfriend was Topanga.
Yes, Corey. Yeah, it's Corey and Topanga.
Is it Sean? Corey, Sean, and Topanga?
Yeah, I think it is Sean. That sounds right. Yeah, I remember thinking it was a pretty decent horror movie, but that was many, many years ago, and I feel like based on what you're describing, it might not click as well, or it might not resonate as well now.
And the whole premise is, this I guess kind of skin eating bacteria, this disease that erodes away your skin, and none of that was interesting whatsoever. They made it abundantly clear that the way you get this disease was drinking the water, so there was absolutely no tension involved with how they were going to get it, how if it was mysterious. And whenever the first girl gets it, she's drinking this mason jar full of the dirtiest ass looking water known to man. I'm like, why are you drinking that right now? Would you stop and look that it appears there's a piece of corn floating in that? Stop now. Stop. Okay, you're gonna drink it. Okay. So now
she didn't want to give it back to the waitress because it looked like the waitress was having a rough day.
Yeah, a little kicking and screaming reference there, folks. Check out season 1. All right. What else was I going to say? Okay, so Eli Roth, I haven't seen a whole lot of his movies. I saw his latest one, House of the Clock on the Walls, which was a really good kids flick. Really like him as an actor whenever he was in Inglourious Bastards. I guess the next movie I need to see from him would probably be The Green Inferno, which is a cannibal Holocaust inspired kind of movie. I've only seen clips of Hostel, so I don't know a whole lot about Hostel.
I saw Hostel in theater many, many years ago, and I felt like it was two movies. The first half is kind of a teen comedy, almost reminded me of Euro Trip, which oddly enough is in Europe, and then the second half is this ridiculous horror movie. And it goes for the not blood porn, but gross out porn style. I don't know if that's the
torture
right term.
Porn. It's torture porn, right?
There we go, yeah. And the thing that got me wasn't even there's a scene at the end and there's a blowtorch, and that's the scene that most people say grosses them out. That wasn't even the scene that grossed me out. It was the thing that always grosses me out in movies, and I think I discussed this when we talked about I Saw the Devil one time. It was dudes, they take a scalpel and slash his Achilles tendon, and that was the part that got me. And it was like the first time I think I ever saw that, and it freaked me out. But
Crazy. All right, what's your ugly?
my ugly was this movie called 68 Kill that I randomly came across on Netflix. I was just scrolling late at night one night.
What brings you to stop on such these titles?
Well, this one had Matthew Gray Gubler in it, who's better known as Dr. Reed Spencer. I think that's his name in what's the TV show? I'm bad at remembering the names of the things. I remember the characters' names. Criminal Minds. Criminal Minds. He's in Criminal Minds. And the title sounded, not the title, the description sounded okay enough, and like it was one of those things like it was late at night and if I fell asleep I wouldn't care that I fell asleep kind of deal. I wouldn't lose any, like it would just be whatever. And
gosh, I remember those days.
And then the movie was awful. None of the characters were interesting. None of the characters made me care about them. The only thing that I learned from this is that Dr. Spencer Reed, which is his name in Criminal Minds, doesn't matter what he's in. He just gets women because all the ladies love him. But basically the premise is that he's dating this girl. This girl, they're poor. She goes and sleeps with this guy who's rich every once in a while to get money. She decides she doesn't want to do that anymore. She wants to rob them, and she convinces him to do it. And they go to do it. It goes wrong. They kill him. They kill his wife. And then this other girl was in the house. She wasn't supposed to be there. They kidnap her. He decides to break away from the girlfriend, takes the girl with him, decides to be with the girl. He wakes up, the girl's dead. Then there's these other people, and they start torturing him. Everybody ends up fucking dead. It was just, it was not cool. It was, it was like an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes of my life I wish I had back.
Oh, that's too bad. All right.
And then
where are we going next?
We're going to, I did not see that coming.
All right. So that's kind of funny. That ties in with my other little movie club I'm in. The guy recommended Bowfinger. So Bowfinger stars Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy, and it's this movie that came out in the 90s that with the title Bowfinger, I was just like, nah, I don't need to see that. So, but Marvin123, big shout out to him. He recommended that I see it, and this movie was a blast. You wouldn't expect to see movies with Steve Martin with a ponytail being a blast, but it's a good time. It's essentially about this like wannabe film director producer who wants to make this movie. It starts off with him like reading this script and saying, "Man, this is the one. I'm gonna make this movie now." The big problem is the producer that he finds. He tells him that he's gonna get the biggest star in town, Kip something. Played by Eddie Murphy to be in it. And he's like, and the producer's actually played by Robert De Niro. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah. And they think he's absolutely crazy because like he's running around pretending to talk on this car phone, which he's treating like a cell phone, but they can see the fact that he has the wire dangling at the bottom. So they're like, yeah, look at this guy. Yeah, sure, he's going to make a movie. And so he comes up with this scheme to like, he has this like really dedicated group of actors around him, and they're like going to like run up to Eddie Murphy's character and like they're going to shoot it from a distance and they're going to make this movie out of it. Have you ever seen Tim Burton's Ed Wood?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So it's kind of the same idea where like this group of like passionate people are going to do whatever it takes to make a movie, and they don't care how bad it is. And so they do it, and they kind of see the fruits of their labor come to life at the end. Yeah, it's hilarious. I think the only moment I'd seen from it, like a clip I'd seen, is just a part where all of a sudden, halfway through the movie, Eddie Murphy's character's like twin brother shows up. So it's one of those movies where Eddie Murphy plays multiple people, and he's like this real nerdy guy. And man, Eddie Murphy, he's like just the best at like being able to play two characters in a movie and be like completely different. But there's this scene where they have him like run as fast as he can across this freeway, and like I don't know how they shot this thing. It looked super real, but he's like spazzing out and like dodging these cars, And he gets all the way across. He's like, "Oh my God, I want to quit. I want to quit. That's crazy." And then Steve Martin, he's a super charismatic character, being Bowfinger. He like talked all these people into doing this for him. He's like, "All right, we'll shoot it again." And then they show him doing it again. Yeah, super, super fun movie. Did not see it coming whatsoever. Bowfinger is a really good time. I was close to getting it 5 stars, but maybe if it holds up on a second watch, I'll do that.
Nice.
So your last one is your bad, right?
Yes. All right. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. This movie, it might have actually been worse than My Ugly, but for aesthetic reasons, I could not say that it was the ugly. And that is Suicide Girls Must Die. And it...
Picking all kinds of schlock this week.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was one I picked up during one of my last times going to the pawn shop, so it was like $1. And like, look, sometimes you just want to watch girls without their clothes on, and I knew that was gonna fill.
I have a response to that, but I'll check that at the door. No, I'm good.
Oh, what, I could just watch Pornhub? I wasn't trying to do that. I just wanted to watch a movie that had some nice looking ladies in it, and that it did. Hence why it's not the ugly. But boy, howdy, was this bad?
What was it called again?
Suicide Girls Must Die. So it's presented as both a reality, kind of like a reality TV show, and a horror movie.
Okay.
And it's so bad.
All right.
It's so bad. Okay, so they're calling up all the Suicide Girls, and they're like, "Hey, we have a calendar to shoot. Come to Maine." And then they have to fly in and then drive 6 hours once they're in at the airport. Of why they couldn't fly into Maine and then drive closer, fuck if I know. But they're doing this, and then they get there and they get all their phones taken, so I guess they can't leak what's going on this highly secretive Suicide Girls calendar. And then one girl gets in a fight with the boss and then leaves, and then before she find out later she's dead, and then other girls start showing up dead. This is after the property that they were on. They mess with a burial site that's in the woods, and they keep going into this confessional booth and talking, and they're doing interviews with them, hence the reality part of it. They keep doing the photo shoots, and people keep dying and dying and dying and dying until you get to the end, and then it's all just a big fucking practical joke. No one actually died.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, no, it was.
You're watching too much schlock, brother.
Oh, I mean, I also watched The Searchers, and I watched Mission Impossible 3, and then I watched Kick-Ass, but I looked at what I watched, and I was like, oh, we're talking about two kind of action-y movies, and then these were action movies, and I was like, I'll actually just name them The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. What do you want from me, man?
There you go. All right, so I guess I have one left to go, right?
Yes, and that's so 80s.
Right, let me see if I can get this work.
At Sprint, our priority is keeping our
commercial.
customers, employees,
Fuck
and
you,
communities
YouTube.
safe. During these uncertain times, get the great service you expect without leaving the safety of your
Mark
home.
here
Shop
for
at Sprint.com
edits.
for the best new
Damn
phone
you,
deals, like a
YouTube.
Samsung Galaxy phone for just $0
I don't know,
a
the
month.
fuck you YouTube is kind of funny. Mark here as we get demonetized.
Yeah, it's officially happening at this point. So do you know what this song is, Mr. Joey? Can you hear it?
I can hear it. I can't say that I recognize it.
All right, this is What a Feeling from Flashdance, which I saw for the first time, finally. It was on, like, my list of, like, the classic movies I've never seen. I think we brought it up last week during the musical. Man, if you don't like this song, you probably won't like the movie, because this song is, I think it's played like 4 times in the movie. It's played during like the awesome like scene at the beginning where she's riding around Pittsburgh, and like Pittsburgh is like a character in this movie for sure. It's played randomly in the middle of it.
Now I know the song.
The, like, spoiler alert, the final dance scene, like, they start playing it, she messes up and wants to start again, and so then we hear it start over again. It's a freaking amazing song. It totally makes the movie. Maniac's in the movie as well. It's kind of this generic, kind of a girl, you know, trying to make it up in the world, kind of meets a guy. She's really stubborn, but I mean, it's just one of these feel-good movies. It's like Rocky, but she's a dancer. Yeah, Flashdance. It's for dudes too. I mean, I missed it in the 80s, so I'm glad I'm finally catching it now. What a feeling. I think the song kind of got my mind all split apart. Can't really talk about it much. What do you say?
I say, and for us to be demonetized, we'd actually have to make money, but this is where we'll get copyright infringed.
It's
like
possible.
Half our videos. Like half our videos are.
Well, because they used to have Metallica disappear in it for, you know, like 2 minutes, and then you'd be so happy that we got demonetized last time for some of your favorite music of all time from Dancer in the Dark.
Yeah, you put Bjork in it, and then one of them has Dracula in it, and yeah. That
was the intro for the Mouth of Madness episode, and then a couple of them that I didn't decide to go crazy in the editing process and add a bunch of music to. Those are monetizable. I mean, I guess we might get to the point one time when, you know, that matters. But until then, you know, we're happy with everyone who, you know, holds out and listens to the show. Man,
it's that was hilarious and fun and worth it. Like I ain't expecting to make money here. It was more of a joke.
Oh, goodness, do I want to open this can of worms? Okay, so I listened to, one of the biggest movie podcasts out there, like their episode will drop, and, like, you'll look, and, like, they instantly have, like, 2,000 hits on YouTube, and you're like, whoa, how do you get there? And so they're answering questions the other day, and leave in the comments if you know what podcast I'm talking about, but they brought up the term, which actually flows really well with this episode. Do you know what a MacGuffin is, Mr. Joey?
Oh, yes. I have a feeling we're going to be talking about it later when we talk about the second movie.
Yep. So, the term, I think they were asked on the podcast, like, what their favorite MacGuffins of all time were, and half of them didn't even know what a MacGuffin was, and yet this is, like, one of the biggest movie podcasts, like, around, and I mean, everyone's going to come into their movie podcast with a different level of knowledge, but, like, they almost, like, dismissed it as if it wasn't even, like, a valid thing to know about. That gets my head cranking. Maybe we should ask movie dork terminology questions on this show. Do you know what a red herring is, Mr. Joey?
I mean, I've heard the term, and I feel like I know what it is, but kind of to describe it is, I feel like if you were like, that's a red herring, I'd be like, duh, I know that. But like describing it,
it's like a false lead. It's like the movie wants you to think a certain thing, but then it pulls back and that becomes irrelevant. That's a red herring. It's a plot contrivance to make you think one thing, and then the plot doubles back and does another.
Oh, so
like in Scream, like when the dad disappears the whole time or whatever, and they're trying to make you think that the dad might be responsible. No, he's a red herring. It's totally these morons yelling at you the whole time that are the actual killers.
Yeah. So basically something like, look this way while we distract you this way.
Yep, red herring. And then to actually answer the question that I brought up earlier, which we'll be talking about it later, MacGuffin. That's basically just a plot device of like the whole reason that the story is happening is everyone's running after this one object. And on their podcast, they mentioned R2-D2 as a MacGuffin, which is not exactly accurate. I read up on this. I'm like, R2-D2 is not a MacGuffin. He's a character. The Death Star plans. That's the MacGuffin, which is hidden in our R2-D2. So I can see that's where that could be a little bit of confusion. But yeah.
I don't know. There's a good MacGuffin in like Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, and Ronin for sure.
Yeah, and Ronin. Like I said, we're gonna talk about one of those later.
Alrighty. Now to our feature movies this week, and our theme for the week is Arrow video titles we had not seen before. And I picked this one, so I'll go a little bit into the topic here with my notes. As anyone who follows me knows that I'm completely dedicated to watching as many Criterion Collection titles as possible. If you look under my tags, you can now see that I'm up to 334 of those, including the laser disc titles. So getting up there, it feels like I've been in the 300s forever. Oh well. So that essentially means I basically watch a Criterion like every other movie, which is kind of fun to track on Letterboxd because I put like the fancy like spine number blah 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 on the top of the review, which is something to put on the review to get my brain going to see what else I'm going to come up with for it. At one point I remember being really interested in the Arrow collection, but I was never really sure where to find them. Like Criterion always seemed like the low-hanging fruit because I knew about like the Criterion sale at Barnes & Noble, and whenever we had one here in Charleston, you could go and there's a whole Criterion section, which was really sweet. So you could browse all the titles, but like I heard, like I would hear, like for example, like the Waterworld got released, and like I didn't know anywhere where to find it, and eventually I found that you could order it on Amazon, and I picked up that Arrow. Yeah, I didn't really have it. I think they just kind of sell them all over the place, and you just have to track them down. So I didn't know a lot about that. There's several. I mean, they have really great artwork. I was kind of perturbed that Arrow put out a reissue of RoboCop, which I'm sure it looks awesome and it's great, and it's probably better than the Criterion DVD. But kind of deep down as a Criterion fan, I wish that would have stayed in that collection. And then Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas Blu-ray. I have the DVD. That got made by Arrow now. So I mean, it's all is love, all is fair in love and war with movies. But yeah. So Arrow, it's out there, and we watched a couple of them. What's your history with the company?
So Arrow, in America, it is a little bit harder to find than Criterion is. It's predominantly a British company. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, at least at my Barnes & Noble, they would have some American Arrow releases. That's where I got my Steelbook Arrow Weird Science at.
Yeah, I think I saw that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but for the most part, you can just go to the Arrow Films website. But just for people who aren't familiar with them, they are a British independent distributor. They do like world cinema. They do some cult, art, horror, and they do there's Blu-ray and DVD. They have some collector's editions. Like if you watch my unboxing of Old Boy and then Mr. Vengeance and Lady Vengeance, those were that was an Arrow box set specifically for them. Which was really cool. That was a Region B version.
Donnie Darko's on Arrow. The theme should have been Arrow titles we want to revisit, and I could have treated you to Donnie Darko again.
Oh boy, let me tell you, we might have had to have some conversations.
Oh, you would figuring that plot out. It's been ages since I've seen it.
We might have had some conversations about like hard stop, no thank you. Because I do believe the last time we brought that movie up, I used some choice words that rhymed with duck. Yeah, Arrow twice won Boutique Distributor of the Year, or just Distributor of the Year, like 2011, 2013. Which generally
never was such a thing.
Yeah, generally, Arrow has been listed by Guardian twice as their home video distributor of the year. Generally, that goes to Criterion. But just in America, Criterion is a little bit easier accessible. 'Cause some of these other places, like Shout, I think, and some of the other ones are generally in like the UK and Europe. So if you don't have a region-free player, it makes it harder. But
I hear a lot about Kino, but I don't think I've ever seen a Kino in the store before.
yeah, I've never seen a Kino anywhere, but I think some people, like I read about it, and it seems like they get them during the Criterion sales, and I could be wrong about that. So if you're listening, and you have any information, please, comment or message us and let us know. So,
where do you pick up your Kinos? Where do you pick up your Scream Factories? I got the Shout Factory Blu-ray Steelbook of Fargo. I have come across those before.
Yeah, I mean, I have their website. Like I'm looking at their, like, I could click on their website like right now and go to there. So they're not so hard. But the Kinos,
I always watch like the Criterion like monthly releases. Do you do that for other companies?
Not so much. Like Carl usually keeps up with that stuff more than I do and kind of tells me about it. He was the one who was like, "Hey, Arrow's having their big sale right now," and then I just went to the website, and then he was the one telling me that like Diabolic was having their American release Arrow sale, and like the Arrow American sale was nowhere near as good as the British one, like the UK one. Like I was getting, like $40 and $50 movies for like $10. It was even better than like say the Criterion sale, which is why I bought so many. But they're still just not here. They're just sitting in customs in England. So, but I mean, it is what it is. I can't be mad. There's a pandemic going on, so things are just kind of slogged up. But yeah, that's what Arrow is. It's just another way for to get some cool releases and boutique stuff for those who are familiar.
They feature like reversible covers or something. That's unique.
Yeah, I think they do have some reversible covers and different things of that nature. They have that same clear case like Criterion, but they don't run it up the full side, and they're not numbered. So I will say I was very intrigued when we were going into this. I was like, to what you were gonna pick, like if you were gonna go with some like cult movie or some like crazy horror movie,
It's pretty culty.
I think it is kind of culty. But like I was kind of interested in what you're gonna pick. I forced myself not to go with some crazy Japanese like exploitation movie or something of that nature. So
all right. So the movie he's alluding to, our first movie is "Bring Me the Head" of Alfredo Garcia. Was a movie title that, like, the title alone had me so interested in checking this out for like the longest time, and I just never got around to it, and this was the perfect opportunity. And man, even the poster looks freaking amazing with like this big old fist, and he's holding this chain, and you don't really realize until you're watching the movie that the little locket, it has a picture of Garcia, and he's just like, "Bring me the head of Alfredo Garcia." The movie was directed by Sam Peckinpah, and I've now seen a few of his movies, including The Wild Bunch and Straw Dogs. His films definitely have an older look to them. I would call it a 70s aesthetic for sure. Like, you watch movies like Stanley Kubrick's 2001, and it just has this like sheen polish to it. But then you watch a Sam Peckinpah movie, it's just very gritty and old looking, which I think, for some reason, I don't feel myself as drawn to for some reason. And I definitely enjoyed Straw Dogs more than I did The Wild Bunch. I kind of felt The Wild Bunch was overrated the first time I saw it, but there's a lot of people on Letterboxd who are just like, "What are you talking about? Why do you not like The Wild Bunch?" So maybe it's something I'm just still kind of getting used to with Sam Peckinpah. But hey, you seen any of his movies before?
I have never seen one of it. This was my first one. However, there's a pretty well-known quote that where I've heard of The Wild Bunch. It's in a movie that I'm sure you've seen, because it stars Quentin Tarantino and it's written by Quentin Tarantino. He just didn't direct it. It's From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's I will turn this place into the fucking Wild Bunch if I think you're fucking with me. Yeah. When George Clooney near the beginning, in the convenience store with him and his brother. So his brother is Quentin Tarantino. So yeah. Yeah, so that's my knowledge of the Wild Bunch, and Sam Peckinpah before this movie.
And I still scratching my head at why these movies don't completely click with me, because they have this like gritty, realistic violence, which is kind of cool. I mean, definitely Tarantino was inspired by this kind of stuff, and it's kind of artsy at the same time. So, I mean, I guess I'm just still getting into it. I mean, Straw Dogs is pretty good with Dustin Hoffman. I don't know.
I've heard good stuff about it. I've never seen it, but like I think I would rather watch Stray Dog before I watch Straw Dogs. But nothing against it. It's just, it's just one that I've been wanting to see for a hot minute.
Is Stray Dog a movie?
I'm pretty sure that's the right name of that movie. I could be.
Never heard of it.
Let me make sure that I'm not saying that incorrectly.
Beep, boop, 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 all right, so I was looking for a good synopsis for this movie online, and I really didn't find one. Even the Letterboxd one didn't seem exactly accurate, so I wrote my own. So essentially, this movie is about a crime lord named El Jefe, which, looking on Wikipedia, that actually means the boss. He gets pissed off when he finds out that his daughter is pregnant. He demands the head of the man responsible. And we then follow an American named Benny, who is hired by some men a little bit further down the chain from El Jefe to go find the head. He thinks this is going to be a pretty easy payday because he will soon find out that Alfredo Garcia is already dead, as his adventure into the rural Mexico and all kinds of crazy characters ensues. This is probably the best depiction of Mexico I've seen in a movie, I think. A lot of times, like movies like Traffic and stuff, like show Mexico as being like really yellow. Although I might retract that statement. Mexico looks pretty awesome in a Sicario. So yeah, just thinking out loud. All right.
So it's been a long time since I've ever seen Traffic. No, Traffic I haven't seen, so I can't say anything. But yeah, Sicario, Mexico looked fine. There's From Dusk Till Dawn. I don't really remember it looking yellow in there, but you don't really see much of it. They just kind of travel through it.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of other movies I've seen where they go to Mexico. I mean, there's all like the Desperados and El Mariachi and Once Upon a Time in Mexico. And stuff like Zorro and that kind of stuff. Also, I sent you a link.
Yeah, Stray Dog. That's in the Criterion, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I think it's a Criterion DVD.
It's a Japanese movie.
Yeah, well, considering it's by one of our favorite directors.
Oh, is that a Kurosawa?
It is a Kurosawa.
Well, there you go. All right. So it's kind of funny. The movie, like, it starts off and it kind of looks like a period piece. It looks like you're definitely like Once Upon a Time in Mexico kind of deal. But then like a real quick second later, you find out you're actually in present day when you start seeing like all these airplanes going all over the place. Kind of, I guess, suggesting the fact that Garcia, once he got little daughter knocked up, he got the hell out of there because he knew what El Jefe was not going to stand for that. Yeah. So the movie starts off. It kind of has like... So I mentioned like Peckinpah is pretty artsy. So the movie, it's very feminine to begin with. Like it's showing her like kind of relaxing, sunning next to this nice body of water. And yeah, just very peaceful compared to what we're about to see. And I've noticed from Peckinpah films, they definitely have this contrast of like innocence compared to like the dark side of humanity, because the rest of this movie is definitely very seedy in terms of the the sweaty alcoholic characters we're about to meet up with, including our main character Benny. Any thoughts so far?
I mean, yeah, like I remember seeing like the opening scene, and it's like you can tell she's pregnant. She's there in her feet in the water, and there's like all these geese in the water, and then they take her inside, and he's like, Who is the father? Who is the father? And then they like rip her shirt off, and I'm like, that seems really fucking unnecessary. And they're like, why would you
And all the women are like totally dressed in black, and they're like off to the side and like looking like very worried but totally helpless because they're intimidated by all these very macho guys in the room.
It's like, why would you want to like make your daughter topless? I guess to degrade her, but like that seemed really just unnecessary. And then they like fucking break her arm, and it's like, okay, this dude is not messing around. He's gonna find out who the baby daddy is.
Yeah, that definitely made me squirm, and you hear the nice crack sound as they cut to the outside shot, and you definitely get a taste of some brutality right there in the up front. And you kind of, so I'll go ahead and let the cat out of the bag here. I've technically seen this movie 3 times now. I watched the first half one night and I finished it off the next night. And then today I actually listened to 2 separate commentary tracks where they were talking about the movie. So I'm all loaded up on Alfredo Garcia factoids tonight. So we'll see how many of them get spit out. It was fun. So if you get the Arrow Collection disc of Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, one is like this Peckinpah scholar, and then the other one is like 4 different guys who have written books about him. So to hear like 4 different guys like talk about a movie all at the same time, it was almost like listening to a podcast. It was pretty fun. Definitely recommend that. Get a lot of inside knowledge on this movie if you're interested. So so the search montage, that was kind of what I expected coming in. We see these planes going everywhere. There's like all this cutting back and forth. Like there's this random like horse jumping scene in there. But yeah, they're asking all around, crossing off lists, trying to find Alfredo Garcia because El Jefe wants his head. And then we go to this bar, kind of Casablanca-ish, you could say, and we meet up with Benny. Have you ever seen Treasure of the Sierra Madre, Joey? Maybe we should put that on the list coming up. I've only seen it the one time. Pretty good. Humphrey Bogart's in that. So I've heard Benny described as a Humphrey Bogart-ish kind of character. So just throwing that out there. But yeah, I was really expecting more of like a rat race, mad world kind of thing where all these bounty hunters are running everywhere trying to find this dude. But no, this is like one guy's story of him trying to track down Garcia. Did you have any preconceptions coming in?
I mean, when it's like Bring Me the Head, the beginning, you would kind of expect it would be a bunch of, either they were going to bring in some like outside hitters, they were going to hire somebody kind of deal to find them, or it was going to be, he was going to send out, his top guns kind of deal to find them. And then, it's like they send these white dudes and they go hire this kind of Hispanic looking guy, and it's like, wait a minute, a Hispanic guy hires some white dudes who hire a Hispanic guy. Okay, sure, I'm with this. All right, sure, this checks.
I don't know. Did you think Benny looked? He didn't look like a gringo to me. I mean, Warren Oates kind of has that tan skin. I mean.
I don't know. I thought he was supposed to be. I mean, he definitely spoke Spanish, and I thought he was supposed to get
be by at least.
Yeah, I definitely thought he was supposed to be Hispanic, but maybe I mistook that. So. Yeah.
So from what I've heard, Peckinpah, like he looks a lot like how Benny looks in the movie with like the sunglasses wearing all the time and the white suit. So. Yeah, Peckinpah kind of put himself in this movie as this Benny character. And so I'll talk more about that as we go along. And from what I've heard, like Peckinpah's early successes were really good, but then he made it like kind of a bomb. And so his movie was kind of on the decline. And a lot of people consider like this movie as Peckinpah's middle finger to the studio system with a lot of his some of the commentary that he put in there. Like for instance, like you'll see like Nixon up on the wall in the bar, and he was like a really haunch like Nixon he was not a fan of Nixon whatsoever. So you have that. And some other interesting things I've found out about Peckinpah is like people would confront him about like his depiction of violence. And he'd be like, well, yeah, that's a movie, but you look over there in Vietnam and they're like Agent Oranging people over there. And now that's reality. I'm just a movie. So kind of interesting to hear his reasons for, making more violent movies. All right, so Beanie sets out to find Garcia and grabs his girlfriend, who happens to be Garcia's ex. Apparently she's a prostitute, which I guess we get a sense of that is the fact whenever Benny wakes up and he has some unexpected visitors down south.
I mean, I thought that at first. I was like, but then I thought maybe they were bed bugs because he's like, hey, change the sheets. But when you read the description, it says she's a prostitute, and so I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess you could have just that whole scene, like you could have just not had that, and it really, I guess I don't know what it was going for. It just don't really do anything. But
yeah, it's hilarious to hear the guy like he's like pouring like liquor on his junk trying to like scare off these crabs, and then he pops one and we can hear it. I thought it was kind of a hoot.
I mean, it was like okay, I don't know, it didn't seem like it fit with everything else that was going there, I guess, to me. But I mean, hey,
I guess.
Yeah, I don't know, it's just I don't know, this is a spot where we start seeing Alita be naked for a whole bunch, so there was that.
We certainly do that. And Warren Oates in those sunglasses, like all the time, rain or shine or sunny or he's always in those sunglasses.
He's just was it who wrote Sunglasses? No, was that Corey Haim? That's where he got the he watched this movie and was like, yeah, I wear my sunglasses at night. Yeah.
Gets himself ready for this big mission, getting himself a big old machete. He ready to go. His main lady, Alita. That's what it is, right?
Yeah, it's Alita. I don't know if we're pronouncing it correctly, but that's surely what it looks like. Not the Battle Angel, not the Robert Rodriguez movie, but
yeah, she's like totally committed to him, but he doesn't necessarily have that like going back towards her. He's definitely wants to get the money and have them start a new life together, but at the same time, like he's like not asked her to marry him or anything yet.
Well,
but we're getting there.
That I guess they were separated or something, and that she slept with Garcia before he dipped out.
Okay.
After he knocked up homegirl, because she was all like, "Yeah, you didn't call me. You said you had a cold," and she was like, "Yeah, I was with Garcia before he left," and. So I guess they were together, but not together. I don't know, man. But yeah.
And meanwhile, there's some goons that are clearly following Benny, but he doesn't seem to notice. So one evening when they're on the road, they're up to wherever Garcia's buried, and they take a break, and two bikers show up. One played by Chris Christopherson, and kind of an interesting scene. Like Alita's like, all right, I got this or whatever. And like, she's like totally like up for like helping protect Benny from these guys. Cause they'll probably kill both of them if like she doesn't like cave in. And so like, yeah, they want to rape her. And, but she kind of stands up to him, but then kind of like appeases him at the same time. But luckily Benny comes to and, takes both the guys out before it gets too crazy. But, a lot of diverse opinions about this in the, like the Peckinpah scholar world. Like some people say this seems like an absolute mess, and other people think it's very interesting sign of like femininity where this girl like she gives in, but at the same time she's being strong because she's trying to protect her man.
I mean, yeah, she clearly like obviously doesn't want to do it, but it's more of the I'm going to do it so I don't die, maybe so Benny doesn't die kind of deal. Because they're just on the side of the road, I guess, chillaxing or whatever, and luckily he takes the I guess they're eating because he takes the cast iron frying pan and clocks homeboy, and then he picks up his gun and then ends up shooting both of them. And this is was this like the first time where you start seeing him just turn into the straight badass, does whatever he wants, just
Yeah, that tees up my next point pretty well. A lot all throughout this movie, like you'll see him like in a mirror or whatever, and it seems like he doesn't want to look at himself in a mirror. And a lot of people say the fact that like he's like digressing into this other person, like with each person he kills, so he can't look at himself in the mirror because he's like changed so much. And man, that scene like at the hotel is pretty sad because there's Alita there sitting like totally like helpless in the shower, essentially like washing away the memory of like being handled by this biker. I mean, I rewatched it, and I mean, it only gets to the point of making out, but yeah, she's like totally exposed, like topless or whatever in front of him. Definitely not pleasant in any respect. Yeah, Peckinpah is definitely known for his depictions of sexual violence. Like that's what Straw Dogs is all about, essentially. So. All right. So she's not crazy about the mission at all. I recall there's a scene where like Benny's just like, he's basically saying that, cutting off his head from the grave, that's not sacred. That's no big deal. I mean, even the church cuts off things or whatever. And so he tries to justify himself, but she is not crazy about this at all. I even recall her doing a little bit of stalling on the way. Like she'll go and talk to this random guy and be like, "Oh, he doesn't know anything," and Benny's just like, "No, you get in the car. You take me to Garcia right now." So Benny's definitely not getting stirred away from his one-track mission. I think they finally do get this to the cemetery, and I thought it was very striking to see the little funeral procession and the little child-sized coffin. So that was a moment.
Yeah. Also, he has to. It's not just that he wants the money, but like when they gave him the mission and he asked for more money, like they told him like you have 4 days or you have X amount of time or else we're coming to kill you. So like
so there's some stakes there.
Yeah.
All right, so they go up to the grave. There's a bunch of mourners there, so they have to go and lay low and come back later. Really, really cool night shot. Like it's not like too dark. They come back and you can kind of definitely see what they're doing. So for being an older looking movie, it's always nice whenever night shots are depicted really well. Because sometimes you'll watch a movie and like it's taking place at night and you're like, what's going on? Huh? So yeah. So he starts digging up the grave and he's got it open and he's about to cut off that head and bam, he gets hit by a shovel and he gets knocked out. And he wakes up half buried. He's like holding Alita and like thinking she's still alive, but no, she's clearly dead. And at this point, it became a revenge story. And they pick it up. I kind of sense that it wasn't doing much for you up to this point.
I mean, it was very slow. Like there were some things that happened, but it was slow. Like it was just like, and the thing about like this kind of movie, I feel like to me was like Benny he wasn't a super interesting character. He was just a bartender who was an asshole. Alita was a girl and she was just kind of there. Like she didn't take away anything, but she didn't really add much other than she was naked. Like, don't get me wrong, cool, but like
very compassionate though.
But like neither one of them got me invested in caring about either one of them, whether they got to the head of Alfredo Garcia or not. Like, okay. I just like this part of at this point where it turns is it picks up because some stuff happens, but then at this point this normal dude basically turns into flipping Superman. Like
essentially turns into an unstoppable vigilante escaped from the grave.
Yeah, just like hello Beatrix, like. But not trained, like, okay. Like.
Yep, so he catches up with the goons a little way down the road. They seem to not be too worried. They're just sitting there drinking, changing a tire, and he takes them all out, no problem. It's kind of hilarious because he has at this point he has the head of Alfredo Garcia in this little bag sitting there rotting next to him, and they have all these flies zipping around the car, so very uncomfortable. But yeah, he's going a little nutty. He's talking to Garcia like he's actually there in the car, making his life hell. I think he pulls up to a place to get some ice. He orders the breakfast of champions, nothing like a little beer and eggs to get the morning off to a good start after you woke up in a grave.
Murdered some people. Beer and eggs. Yeah, that's your breakfast of champions. It's what you did in college, right?
I don't think I ever went that far, but yeah, boy. All right, so Garcia, I believe it was Garcia's family that tracks him down, and they held him up, and it seemed like, yeah, Benny's met his match here, but then some more El Jefe goons show up with a machine gun. They start gunning down the family, pretty brutal, and this is when I guess it's fair to say, bring up Peckinpah's signature slow motion death kills. So, yeah. This is all over his movies. I guess I would say that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Peckinpah action. Like, it's very gritty and realistic and not fun at all, really. It just kind of happens. And what's your take?
I mean, the first thing where I remember it being slow was like when he comes up on the guys who were changing the tire. He's in like a station wagon or is he still in the beat up convertible? Anyway, he like
got a Trans Am or something.
Yeah, he like drifts into him and then it slows down the drift and it just seemed really out of place. And then yeah, like at this point now we're here and he's being held up by the family and then the goons show up in that station wagon I was thinking about and they use the machine gun and gun the people down. It's just like it was this big shootout. Like it was action packed, but it was also just I don't know. Like it wasn't bad. It just I don't know. It didn't feel the same as like the action scenes in this next movie we're going to talk about, which were like aces.
A couple funny moments involved with that shootout with the family. You got the little tour bus that goes by, and so the tourists are looking at these Mexicans standing on the side of the road with their guns about to kill somebody, and and then the white guys show up, and all hell breaks loose. Yeah, at this point he's pretty rough looking. He's that smelly head in there. He's been wearing the same white suit, which is super dirty from not only getting bled on, getting all roughed up with all the dirt from the digging up Garcia and then getting put in his grave. So yeah, he is not looking too hot at this point. I think he makes it all the way back to his hotel, cleans up a little bit, and he's straight up for revenge for the death of Alita at this point. He has no interest in the money, which me personally, I'm like, just take the money and get out of there, live to see another day. But no, he is totally hung up on the loss of his lady, who he had committed himself to right before she died. So he takes out like the posh guys in this lounge in whatever big city they were close to, and then he has to fly to wherever El Jefe's compound is, and he's just like, so I have the head of Alfredo Garcia, and meantime it's like El Jefe's like totally forgotten about like this whole mission that he sent all these guys on, and he's like overjoyed that he now has a grandson or whatever, and he's like, oh, you got the head, that's nice, let's have a drink. And like Benny's like, nope, I'm not having none of this. And he's like, all this for money or whatever, all this death. And Benny continues his reign of revenge and guns them all down. El Jefe's daughter's pretty gung-ho about this. She likes that. But kind of in Scarface style, there is really no escape for Benny. He is on this suicide mission for keeps. And then, we got a pretty solid scene where he tries to run out of the compound in the car and then gets gunned down. You don't really see him get shot up more so. It's more of just his car. This is one of those, I guess giallos were pretty big in the 70s. So, like, a lot of the blood that you see kind of looks kind of fake. Like, so that's a thing in the 70s. Pretty solid shot of the end of the barrel. I thought the movie was okay. I definitely appreciate it the more and more I learn about it, how much of a statement it was that Peckinpah had like toward the system. I agree with you. It definitely, the first time watching it through, it was a little slower. Picked it up. I was just really curious to see how it would end because I was really pulling for Benny to make it out of there. Not so fortunate. So I thought it was okay. About 3.5 stars. Really good performance by Warren Oates. I mean, like his scenes of like staring into the mirror and just looking all like meh after dealing with all this shit. Yeah, he's a really good actor, and this is one of his few starring roles. So, pretty good cult movie.
You gave it a little bit higher than me. I gave it like just 2.5, so just very average. Just because the first half was so slow, and like I just wasn't big on how Peckinpah did some of the actual action scenes and stuff. And then just him going on a plane with a decapitated, rotting head. I'm like, I know he's flying from like Baja to mainland Mexico, and this is the 70s, but I feel like someone would have noticed that. And the gun under the head. Like, there's just some things that like, I understand it's a movie. Basket. Yeah, but I was like, I feel like there's some things that might have gotten noticed. I don't know. It's not terrible. Like,
yeah,
I definitely
they definitely
like
checked realism at the door, especially whenever he is like this unstoppable gun master in the second half.
He was like, he's a bartender. We have no way to know that he was apparently a master of gun fu.
I saw a bartender on Letterboxd too. I don't think he was a bartender. I think he was just a piano player. I never saw him pouring drinks, but just throwing that out there.
He worked at the bar, whatever. Anyway, he was a piano player, worked at the bar, poured the drinks, picked up hose at the bar, whatever.
I saw one Letterboxd description that described Garcia as a gigolo. Not sure where they got that, but okay.
I mean, with them sunglasses and that suit, he definitely could have been a gigolo.
Oh, no. Garcia, the guy that they were looking for, not Benny.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he was I don't know where we would have gotten gigolo from, but
yeah,
I mean,
I
definitely think this is a bad movie. I definitely think there's definitely some people who would probably enjoy it more than me, and I definitely feel like there could have been a few things changed here and there, and I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more. I just felt like it just came out of the gate really slow. That by the time it got to the stuff that I normally would find enjoyable, it was just at that point it was too late, kind of deal. But we definitely have watched worse movies, in my opinion. So
for sure, yeah. So Joey sends me a meme the other night of people slamming on Lars von Trier, and that's only building up the fire for me to want to recommend some more of his movies. Maybe give it another chance. Give it another chance, bro. All right. So let's take a little break, and we'll be back with Joey's choice for his Arrow title that we both hadn't seen. All right. We are back with the Average Joe's Movie Club show. And watch out, Jason Bourne. Joey's about to tell us about our next pick for tonight, or this episode, Ronin.
All right. So a Ronin is a samurai without a lord or a master during the feudal period of Japan, and a samurai became masterless upon the death of his master after the loss of his master's favor of privilege, which they tell you at the start of this movie.
Pretty hit music and black and white text on the screen. Yeah,
it was pretty dope. So a good summary here is that you got some freelancing former U.S. intelligence agent is trying to track down a mysterious package that is wanted by both the Irish and the Russians. So that's according to IMDb there. That's their synopsis of the movie. It's pretty accurate. Takes place mostly in France. So a lot of French. A lot of French being spoken. A lot of subs right off the cut.
Yeah.
So, dude, this movie was.
Anything in particular that made you think to pick this one? I guess the cast. Oh,
the cast, the cover, because the Arrow cover is different than when you look at it on say Letterboxd. It has a different cover. But yeah, I mean you see Jean Reno, who is in
Leon,
Leon the Professional, and then
Da Vinci Code.
You have Bob De Niro.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was like this is a really good cast. I didn't remembered hearing about it, but I had never seen it, and I knew it was supposed to be this good action movie. I didn't really know a lot about it. I was not expecting a bunch of ridiculous car chases, and those were really, really good. And then the action scenes are just really great. I mean, we'll get into those in a bit. So,
Yeah, this movie was directed by John Frankenheimer, which I was really surprised to see. He was definitely pretty old. I think he was in his 60s when he made this. I knew him from my journey through the Criterion Collection. He's made movies like Seconds and The Manchurian Candidate back in like the 60s, I think. And those are some pretty solid movies. I always really knew him from his stylistic, like he could make these like very entrancing dream sequences look pretty cool. So that's how I remembered him. This movie doesn't really have any of that. No shame on that, but definitely not the John Frankenheimer I had recalled seeing. This movie was apparently written by a guy named J.D. Zayak, and apparently what happened was De Niro, what I was hearing on this one video, that De Niro got David Mamet to come in and punch up the script for him, make them all sound really smart. So essentially, yeah, David Mamet, he's like a classic, really good Hollywood writer. You kind of think of like Aaron Sorkin, David Mamet, those kind of writers. So yeah, I guess the one thing I wanted to poke at this movie a little bit about is you could have probably called this movie anything. This whole concept of a Ronin, like, let's see, how does it come into play? Like, yeah, they hire these guys to do these missions, and then like they run into this guy like midway through the movie who likes to like paint samurai, and there's this really cool opening introduction thing where like they tell what a Ronin is, and there's a really hip title screen that's red and black and says Ronin. But if you stripped all that away, you could call this cool car chase movie with Robert De Niro and be good to go. Nothing to take away from it.
I mean, Ronin has a cool name, and when they're talking to Homeboy, who's who paints the miniature samurais, he delves into the story of the 47 Ronin, not to be confused with the movie 47 Ronin, starring Keanu Reeves, which obviously was about that, but not to be confused with that. So I mean, I thought it was interesting. It's very interesting that they took something that was, Japanese. And applied it to something that wasn't Japanese. Kind of, at least in title, it kind of reminded me of Little Samurai.
Yeah, which, you stole my thought. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. With it being like kind of a French movie at first, like the whole Japanese connection. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Franco-Japanese.
Franco-Japanese. Here you go. One interesting interpretation that I heard briefly whenever I was washing the dishes and listening to some guy rant about this movie was like how these like spies might have been like samurais in the Cold War, but now that the Cold War's over, they're more like Ronins looking for work, and so that how it applies. Interesting idea, but might be a little bit of a stretch. I don't know.
Yeah, that seems stretchy just because like there's never anything that like,
says specifically that like the Cold War's over.
Yeah, or I mean, obviously that.
Or like they're desperate for work or anything.
Yeah, that. Especially once the IRA part comes into it, it's like, well, now we're dealing with the IRA, the IRA aspect, and obviously the Russians, and these KGBs, ex-KGB. Well, obviously we 98. Obviously, there's going to still be a lot of big ex-KGB stuff going around because, we're what. 5-6 years removed, 7 years removed from the fall of the USSR, but
just a random thought. Did that huge staircase remind you of anything?
No, like I didn't catch it. I saw where you had said something about that, but like
it reminded me just of the Exorcist staircase from that iconic Exorcist staircase, really big one. So. But so this movie kind of had a Mission Impossible feel kind of coming into it. A bunch of specialists, come in to do a job. I love that shot of like the van pulling in, and then Sean Bean's looking all cool up in like the raft, or not like on the second floor, looking down. Is like, welcome. He didn't say welcome to the party, pal, but he might as well have. Cool to see. Go ahead.
I was about to say, yeah, especially with Jean Reno. He was in Mission Impossible.
Yeah, good point. Good point. He's
Yeah.
the chopper driver, right? Or pilot. Cool to see De Niro and Reno teaming up. They are a pretty solid combination throughout this. I don't know about you, but like De Niro, like asking like this lady like constant questions, like, well, what happens here? What happens there? He was getting kind of annoying. I mean, he seems like a smart, and we know he's a talented guy by the end. But him poking holes like in this lady's plan here and there and there, it was kind of getting to me.
Well, I mean, look, he's being smart. He's asking questions. Everyone else is just like, "Hey, we're along for the ride." He's like,
Yeah.
"Nah, fam. What's going on?" And I think that, especially there's like another plot point they show at the end of the movie that, like, that kind of makes sense that he's asking these questions. Like, a lot of these other people are operatives, but they're kind of amateur, and he's kind of a pro. They even say, when he shot up Jean Reno, Vincent is like, he's ex-CIA. So obviously it makes sense that he's asking all these questions. He's got all this training. These other guys, you got the IRA lady, and, so she's, IRA, but she's never had any proper training to ask these questions. And so that, when that brings it in is when we go to that first scene for the gun buy, and he's like, all of this seems fishy, and everybody else is like, nah, it's fine. He's like, nah, this is...
Man, Sean Bean is such a spaz in this movie. Where's my Boromir?
I mean, hey, he actually, spoilers, makes it out alive in this movie.
Yeah, because they essentially kick him out. Yeah, it was pretty cool to hear, like, De Niro's like, man, there's got to be a sniper in there, and he spots him, and he's able to, I think he has a pistol, and he takes him out?
Yeah, it looked like, he had the big 45, yeah.
All right,
Yeah, he wasn't playing no games when it came to the gun use in this movie.
Yeah.
And the scene with the board, because I saw you, like, said something about that being silly, but it just showed that, like, Sean Bean was kind of like a fake, that, he wasn't who he said he was, and that De Niro did know what he was talking about. So it goes to further point out that De Niro is as smart as he is claiming to be, and Sean Bean is not. And then obviously 006 there gets the old heave ho. And,
yeah, he was in GoldenEye, wasn't he? I forgot about that. Yeah, so there's this scene where the boss lady, she like draws up like all these like locations on a whiteboard, and they're like, all right, what's the plan, guys? And Sean Bean goes up, he's like, oh, well, we'll camp some people here, and we'll camp some people there, and then, they'll ambush them, and then like De Niro erases it, and he's like, draw it up again. He's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, draw it up again. He draws it up, and then De Niro basically says, yeah, you're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. And so he gets kicked off the team.
He's like, I ambushed you with a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I already have the note about the briefcase. I guess we can go ahead and hit that. So spoiler alert. So the big MacGuffin in this movie is the briefcase, which is essentially the Pulp Fiction briefcase, because at the end of the movie, De Niro's like, did it matter what was in the briefcase? And like, yeah, kind of did. That was the whole reason we were running around France this whole time. But no, it doesn't matter. It's just a MacGuffin.
But come to find out, the whole time he was really there looking for Seamus. He was looking for the High Cardinal Sparrow.
Right.
The other Game of Thrones character besides Ned Stark. So that's what he was really there for, was the High Cardinal Sparrow, Seamus.
Another good actor in here, Stellan Skarsgård. We saw him last time in Dancer in the Dark. He's a Von Trier alum. He's also, part of the MCU and the Thor canon. But yeah, he plays like a computer specialist. And also I guess he's a mole, essentially.
I wouldn't say he's a mole. I just think he went rogue because, instead of what the Irish could pay him, he could sell it to the Russians and get so much more. So I wouldn't say mole. I think he just became a rogue agent to get more money.
This movie gets a little confusing. There's a lot of back and forth between what the Irish interests are, what the Russian interests are, and then all the freaking excellent car chases in between.
Well,
Again,
both of them want the briefcase, and then so the Irish have the team, which is Vincent, which is Jean Reno, and then Sam, which is Bob De Niro, and then Stellan Skarsgård, whose character I have forgotten his name, and they're all ran by blonde lady, and then you have the Russians who they're trying to get it before them, and then as we discussed just now, Stellan Skarsgård, when they get after this crazy action scene, he makes a switch, gets the case, and sells it to the Russians, which he had been in league with them. So maybe mole is the right term, but I think he went rogue to get it because he was ex-KGB and tries to sell it to him, and that kind of sets up the whole second half of the movie.
yeah, and then the girl who set up the team to begin with, she's in league with Jonathan Pryce's character, and I guess those are the IRA representatives.
Yeah,
So,
he's the head of the IRA.
Seamus, that's right.
Seamus, yeah.
The whole look of the film, it feel like I had it in HD, and I wouldn't say it definitely didn't stand out as being like an HD movie. It kind of felt kind of like cold and flat, maybe kind of a bluish look to it. Was that kind of the same aesthetic you had?
I didn't really notice that. I mean, I had a Blu-ray. I did not have my Arrow copy, which I assume isn't going to look a ton better. It might be a better transfer or something. But
Yeah.
I mean, I had a Blu-ray of it. I mean, I thought it looked fine. I mean,
Well,
there were
yeah,
a lot of.
I mean, it wasn't muddy or anything. It was just a very flat-looking movie, in my opinion.
I'm trying to think back. Like, I don't recall it. Like, remember going that it looked flat. But I mean, there were lots of parts where they were in like dark areas, and there were lots of parts where they were in like a city, where things might be flat. But I don't really recall that. I remember thinking that it was a fine. Like, I don't think it was like gorgeous. Like, it didn't look like umbrellas or anything. But like, I remember thinking that it was was a fine looking movie. So.
The parts that did look really nice and vibrant were like they would show like every time they went to a new city they would show like all these like aerial like kind of like where they were at in France when they visited Nice. It's pretty funny when they're showing this really pretty city and it says Nice on the screen. I gotta kick.
I mean, it is a nice city, is it not?
It was a very nice looking city. But yeah, the star of the show are these really awesome car chases that kind of come out of nowhere, but you're like, all right, yeah, this is like Bourne Supremacy kind of territory, and yeah, they're really good. Any more thoughts on the car chases?
Dude, the car chases, like every one of them, like were just on point, and they were wild and crazy, but they
Big
weren't
explosions.
But they weren't like Fast and Furious wild and crazy where it was like this is ridiculous. They
definitely more in the reign of the Bourne kind of.
It's been a long time since I've seen the Bourne. The only thing I remember from Bourne's is like crazy hand-to-hand combat. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you gotta rewatch Bourne Supremacy. That car chase through Moscow is very reminiscent of this.
So yeah, no, like that chase where the I guess it's like the third one where Homegirl's driving and like she's driving the wrong way and just man, that was nuts. And then or the one where they have the 4 cars and they're chasing the 4 cars to get the briefcase. So I guess that was like the second car chase scene. And then they have the shootout and everything at the end and in the middle and in the end. Like that whole scene was just like everything about it was like that was just really like top tier action.
Nice. And then you got the really random, like it's pretty cool whenever De Niro like kind of takes charge, goes into that hotel and just like, hey, let's figure out how to like get at these guys. And then there's this really strange scene where he makes out with the girl for no reason, but I suppose that was for some people that want to see a little romance in your script.
Well, it was the first part of that was because the cops were coming by, and so it was like this is why we're parked. But then, she sits on his lap, and I assume that was to insinuate more than making out. Which, I guess at the end, it plot points as to that end scene where she's when they're in the outside of the ice skating arena and he lets her go. It plays into that, and like why we had the other car chase scene is when, he's got the gun at her head and he doesn't shoot her, and it goes into that last car chase scene. Since there's some feelings and such there, but
Yep. Love it that you you remember a lot more of these little plot details than I do sometimes. So I really appreciate that.
I literally watched this movie this afternoon.
All right. And then, I was going to say that it's pretty badass when you can sit there on an operating table or a mock operating table and tell somebody how to pull a bullet out of you. That's good old Bobby De Niro doing that. It's really cool to see him in a spy movie. I don't recall many other movies where that's the case that are at least played straight like this. And so the climax is at an ice show because Russians like ice shows. And apparently the Russian mob has family members in said ice show who get capped while doing their routine.
Boy, that was some big dig energy. He's like, he just didn't care. Just did not care. Hey.
Oh yeah, the Stellan Skarsgård guy, he set an example by firing a gun right above this little girl's head in a park. Yeah, that was pretty cold-blooded.
Oh yeah, that was cold-blooded, but I was more of hey, you've got 20 seconds to give me the money or whatever. There's a sniper who's going to kill your friend or whatever who's ice skating. Mm-hmm. And then the Russians were just man, whatever, shoot him, girl gets shot, everything goes...
Yeah, bananas.
Oh yeah, because then the Russians have the thing, and then Seamus dresses up as a cop, and then the haywire, he shoots them and takes the case, and then the ending was bananas.
But I mean, it kind of just boiled down to they ran each other down to a certain place. One of our heroes shoots them, and that's the end, right?
Yeah, well, he clips De Niro in the arm, and he had already shot John Reno. He'd already shot Vincent, and somehow Vincent had ended up behind him, which they don't really show us, but Vincent had already been shot, and then Vincent gets him from behind. That part's a little okay. They've written himself into a corner and wrote themselves out, and in this process, he lets Deirdre go, but he tells Deirdre that she's come with me, and he's I never left them, kind of saying that he never left the CIA, which kind of tells you he's still in the CIA. And then, they go to the cafe at the end when he drives off with the CIA guy, who you have to kind of assume he's in the CIA because he helped him do the phone trace from earlier. So.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, overall, I was pretty tired when I watched this, but yeah, I was definitely perked up when I saw the really cool car chases. Stayed up super late to finish it off. Like I said earlier, it's pretty cool to see De Niro in a spy movie. It's pretty uncommon. Normally, he's always the mobster. So I thought it was a good time. Kind of silly in places, but overall, some great action. I gave it 3.5 stars.
Yeah, I'm going to go opposite. I gave one a whole star less than your other one, and this one I'll give a whole star more. I gave it 4.5.
There you go.
I kept it from 5 just because it did get a little convoluted with some of the plots and backstabs and stuff, but it's a really good action movie. So if you like some good car chases and gunfights and that kind of stuff, then I would definitely recommend it.
All right. So what do we have coming up for next episode, Joe?
All right. So a couple things. So one, we all know that I normally like to give the actor that is in my movie, the actor that does the quotas in the movie. Yeah. Well, I had to change it up because even though the actor that's in the movie that I'm going to pick has a lot of quotable movies, is actually none that I've seen. So I didn't want to do that. So I picked the movie No Country for Old Men. I did that quote in, was originally the movie I was going to do for this category, but I changed it to this other movie. So I'm going to take probably a lot of heat for this when I give the movie that we do for here. So I'll go ahead and know that I'll take that. So the category for next time is a movie that we watched that we originally disliked or hated. Okay. Or
underwhelmed.
Or underwhelmed, yes. So yeah, I don't want to use hated, just disliked or underwhelmed. And in the movie I'm gonna throw out there, and it is generally beloved by like everybody.
Okay.
And let me see, let me get the year for it. Let me go ahead is 1987's The Princess Bride.
Huh. You were underwhelmed by that one, huh?
Yeah, I never got the hype for it. Now, to be fair, it was one of those things like I never saw it as a child, and so like everybody was like, "Oh my God, this movie's so great! It's the best thing since sliced bread!" Oh my God, blah 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 blah. And then I was just like, "Eh."
Huh.
So, it does a really cool Criterion case, and
I'm Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. It's time to die.
yeah. So I mean,
Yeah, I have the Criterion on my shelf. Yeah, it's a pretty snazzy looking one, purple case.
yeah. So I mean, it'll be much easier to watch than
Was Josh
Bring Me the
Brolin
Head
in that movie?
Alfredo, huh?
Josh Brolin's in it?
No. But like, I couldn't find any, like a good Carrie Ellis quote from a movie I'd seen, or a good Robin Wright Penn movie quote. Like, because she doesn't have any good quotes in Forrest Gump, because she's the devil in that movie.
Okay, that would have been an interesting one to talk about. All right. Oh, good old Savage. What's his first name? Fred Savage, right?
Yeah, Fred Savage.
He's a little kid in Princess Bride.
I thought about trying to do some Andre the Giant quotes or something, but yeah. So, but yeah, mine's The Princess Bride, and I've been very intrigued to see what you're going to bring.
All right.
Here, so.
I don't know why, but early on I did know that this was going to be an early episode. And you had asked me, or actually I think I asked you if I could have permission to include some trilogies on this list. And so we're getting there now. Okay, to be fair, each part of this trilogy is only like an hour and a half. So maybe it's like 4 hours altogether. So it shouldn't be too much of a killer. But there's this really, really well-known trilogy that I really, really like one part of it. And I thought one part of it was okay. And then, like, the most famous, the most talked about, the most revered part, I just was, like, totally like, what? That's what everyone's so hyped about? So, in our next episode, we are also going to be watching the Three Colors trilogy. And hopefully, Joey does not go to my letterbox and see which segment of this that I'm not crazy about. And he can watch each. Okay, so you need to start off with blue. You'll watch white, and then you'll watch red. And then it'll be very interesting by next episode if you can tell me which part of this trilogy applies to this theme.
Okay. This is, for a second, I thought you were going somewhere else with this, and I was like to say, man, I've got all the heat that was going to be on me for picking The Princess Bride was going to be gone. I thought you were going to go somewhere else completely different.
Like Star Wars and like rip on like the Return of the Jedi or something.
Well, I mean, Return of the Jedi, no, I thought you were going to rip on Empire, and I was going to be like, oh.
No. Empire's a masterpiece.
Yeah, no, that's what I was about to be like, brother. Oh, man.
No, absolutely not. Some honorable mentions here. I had thought about Harry Carey. I wasn't thrilled about that the first time I saw it. I know you like Japanese movies, so I was considering it. And then the other one I was thinking about lately is Once Upon a Time in the West. Wasn't really thrilled about that movie, but yeah, I want to get back to Three Colors trilogy, and yeah, it'll be really interesting if you can tell me which one that I loved, which one was okay, and which one I was just like, huh? Why is this so famous?
Okay, and so I'm assuming this is like is this like a true trilogy, like a Star Wars style trilogy where they all tie together, or is this like a?
It's more of like a slight interconnected kind of thing. There's a lot of Criterion trilogies like that. I'm trying to think of more mainstream trilogies like that.
Are these on the channel?
I'd have to look. They might be. I know they advertise the channel big time on one of the parts of it. So, It should be.
Yeah,
It's very. It's the Three Colors trilogy. Like, it's directed by this guy named. Of course, I'm going to tee it up like that. And he also directed the Decalogue. He's a Polish director that I will always blank whenever I talk about things like this. Trilogy. Directed by Krzysztof Kieslowski. Krzysztof Kieslowski. Say that 3 times fast. I said that like before, like the movies even came up. Yeah, it'd be really cool to hear your thoughts on these movies, and see if you can pick the one that rubbed me the wrong way.
Interesting. That'll be interesting. Some other notable ones, like I said, I had thought about No Country. I actually had picked that, and it was in my list for a while, because I've had this list in some form or fashion since around episode 15 or 6. I don't know, for a while. Whenever we first started talking about it.
Yeah.
One of the first other ones when I first saw the category when you first brought it up was Donnie Darko, but I just refused.
That's funny. I brought that up earlier.
Yeah, and I just refused. But those were the 3 big ones.
Okay.
So,
Princess Bride. Okay.
Yeah, I just feel just because I think the only other one that I thought about was There Will Be Blood, and I don't think a rewatch would make me like that one anymore. Whereas I feel like this one and maybe No Country for Old Men I would actually potentially like, especially now that I'm starting to like Coen Brothers movies. So
yeah, if we got into a There Will Be Blood episode, it might be Mulholland Drive lengths. So
yeah,
I don't know. That movie changes. That's one of those ones that. Do you have a movie where you say have you seen a movie that like in between like 10 years and then you watched it again and it was like you had a different experience with it?
I mean, I probably have, like off the top of my head. I can't say that I have, but
okay.
There's probably been some movies that I've watched as I've gotten older that I was like, oh, and I've definitely enjoyed more. And there's definitely been some movies that, like, as I've watched them as I've gotten older, and I'm just like, that wasn't as good as I remember. But I still like them because I have those memories of liking them as being younger. But whatever sophomoric things appealed to me or something, just don't, or teen angst or whatever it was, kind of deal.
All right, so next episode we will be talking about movies that we've seen before that we were not impressed with, underwhelmed by, maybe even hated. So thanks so much, everyone, for following the show. If you want to join the movie club, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment. Any comments, I swear, that come our way will end up on the air. Because, we love hearing about you. We love talking about you. And, hopefully I don't get any heat for kind of bashing a really popular podcast if anybody pieces the dots together on that one.
I mean, if you get some heat, we'll handle it. If you do have some heat for that.
I mean, I still listen to their podcast religiously. I mean, I was just, listening to it, and I'm like, you want to, totally, not care about what this huge Hitchcockian movie term is all about? Okay, whatever.
But if you've got heat that you want to send to Justin or me for picking Princess Bride, or if you got nice things to say, you can go to our Facebook page. You can go which has the button that lets you just click email, or if you don't want to, you just want to straight email us. It's theaveragejoesmovieclubcast@gmail.com. You can go to either one of our letterboxd and just comment us, anything, just however you want to get in touch with us. We really appreciate it. We'd love to have some feedback, questions, anything like that, just to get some conversations going, different things like that. Maybe there's something that we left out, or maybe just to get some different ideas going, anything of the sort. So, and Justin, why do we do this show?
Because we love talking about movies.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
so stinking about it?
Non mi piace il feeling. Spirito Santo.
I think this just might be my masterpiece.